Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be talking about Matt Duchene and Mark Stone, and both of them possibly getting traded to the Winnipeg Jets. Now, Duchene and Stone are some of the most amazing players when it comes to this trade market, and new rumors suggest that both of them might get traded to the Winnipeg Jets. But will it actually happen, and will they actually get traded there? Watch till the end to find out. Now, Matt Duchene and Mark Stone are two amazingly talented players for the Ottawa Senators, but as early as this week and before the trade deadline, both of those guys could be gone and be traded. Now, of course, throughout this season, we've heard a ton of rumors about both guys being linked to a ton of teams, both guys having 1 year left on their deal, two amazingly talented players for the Ottawa Senators, and since the Ottawa Senators are in that rebuilding phase, those are two guys that have been looked to get traded for quite a while now, but of course, we're pretty much a week from the trade deadline, and it's looking pretty realistic that either or will likely get traded. Now, Darren Dreger dropped a huge bomb on Sunday with some pretty concrete news, and he said that unless there's last-minute change, the Ottawa Senators plan on trading Matt Duchene. Mark Stone's future in Ottawa should also be determined early this week, well in advance of the trade deadline. Now, right now, especially with a lot of the other rumors that we've heard in the last couple of weeks, it seems like Matt Duchene's time at Ottawa is pretty much over. We've heard a lot of that, of course, with Darren Dreger saying his time, the Senators plan on actually trading him. So there's concrete evidence to suggest that Matt Duchene will likely be gone for this trade deadline. And that's kind of surprising since I thought Matt Duchene might be staying with the Ottawa Senators. It was maybe a slim chance, but I thought Ottawa would maybe keep him to make that a trade with the Colorado Avalanche look just a little bit better. But even then, trading that guy, and of course trading Matt Duchene right now, makes sense for the Ottawa Senators, especially in the rebuilding mode that they are in right now. Now, what Darren Dreger said on Mark Stone, it was a pretty ominous statement, saying that his future in Ottawa would be determined early this week, which is probably going to happen in the next couple of days. But even with Mark Stone, I also see him being traded, or at least likely to be traded also. With the Ottawa Senators, they're obviously on a fire sale right now. I've heard a ton of rumors about that happening, and a guy like Matt Duchene getting traded could spell also the end for Mark Stone. And while I think Ottawa wants to keep Mark Stone long-term, Mark Stone would get a ton of assets at the trade deadline, especially if a guy like Panarin isn't end up traded. Now, I really didn't get any concrete evidence about Stone and Duchene going to the Winnipeg Jets until Mike McIntyre, who works for the Winnipeg Free Press, uploaded a couple of very juicy tweets talking about Kevin Cheveldayoff and his relationship with Pierre Dorion. Now, Mike McIntyre said in his first tweet, he said, just spotted NHL Jets GM Kevin Cheveldayoff and Ottawa GM Pierre Dorion meeting at Cheveldayoff's suite at Bell MTS Place during the second intermission of the Manitoba Moose game. And that is pretty revealing news since, of course, Pierre Dorion meeting with Kevin Cheveldayoff. That is pretty ominous, and with that statement right there, Pierre Dorion and Kevin Cheveldayoff meeting during AHL games, Pierre Dorion likely scouting those AHL games, it is pretty ominous, and it is pretty suspicious. Now, he also says in the second tweet that Pierre Dorion has just left the meeting with Kevin Cheveldayoff and just spent a long time chatting on the phone. Kevin Cheveldayoff and Mark Chipman being a vice president or something with the Winnipeg Jets, are now together in the NHL Jets GM suite. Oh, the intrigue, a reminder, all of this could just be nothing. But even though Mike is letting us know that this is just a rumor, these are pretty big information and two pretty big tweets from him. And of course, with Pierre Dorion meeting up with Kevin Cheveldayoff at AHL games to likely scout those AHL games. Again, it reveals a lot about Pierre Dorion's plan and what he decides to do here. And meeting up with the Winnipeg Jets GM, of course, the GM of the team that'll likely get these two guys, it is very suspicious. And with Kevin Cheveldayoff, we've obviously seen him in the past make some pretty big moves. But getting a guy like Matt Duchene and Mark Stone would be the top of those big moves. Now, of course, with this situation, Pierre Dorion might just be chatting with Kevin Cheveldayoff, but I think this is a larger part of a bigger thing here. And with Pierre Dorion, obviously, it seems like he wants to trade Matt Duchene. It seems like Mark Stone might also go away from the Ottawa Senators. And with this, Pierre Dorion might just be chatting with Kevin Cheveldayoff of potential trades and maybe a potential package. Now, Bruce Garrett, who works for TSN, he covers the Ottawa Senators, had two pretty big tweets. And then the first one was, Winnipeg has interest in all three, including Stone, Duchene, and Dzingel. Now that tweet by Bruce Graviteh was actually in response to Mike McIntyre, and he actually went out and said that Winnipeg has interest in the three big guys for Ottawa. Again, Dzingel, Duchene, and Stone, and that is huge, huge news. Again, we've seen Duchene linked to the Winnipeg Jets a couple of times, we've seen Mark Stone linked to the Winnipeg Jets a couple of times, but Bruce Graviteh is a pretty reliable guy, especially when it comes to the Ottawa Senators. He definitely knows his stuff, and when he says it, it usually is true, and I'm not really surprised that Winnipeg has interest in these three guys, but it seems like pretty concrete evidence that Winnipeg will go after at least two of them. Now, Bruce Graviteh also had one more tweet surrounding this situation, and he said, "Let me clarify. If Winnipeg doesn't get one of Stone or Duchene, they turn to Dzingel. All three are valuable individually." Now, the big thing here is that he said valuable and not available, which means that they are not available individually, and Pierre Dorion likely could trade both of them, especially if he gets the right package back. And of course, with these tweets, you start to realize where I'm coming from, and that a Stone and Duchene trade packaged together could work for the Ottawa Senators, and for the Winnipeg Jets, it could definitely work. Now, for the Winnipeg Jets, they are a very interesting team right now because they have the assets, and they also have the space on the team to get some big-time names, and Duchene and Mark Stone, you really cannot get too much bigger when it comes to this trade market. And wrapped up, these tweets individually likely lead to a potential Winnipeg trade for at least one of these guys. For me, I am pretty much convinced that either Mark Stone or Matt Duchene will be going to the Winnipeg Jets. But I honestly would not be surprised if both end up going to the Winnipeg Jets. And that might seem absolutely crazy, but I feel like with these tweets leading up to it, I think it could actually work. Now, the Jets only have about $5.8 million in cap space right now, but if they were to offload a guy like maybe a Kulikov or maybe even a Matthew Perreault, they would be able to make it work. And for me personally, that is a move that Winnipeg could definitely work. And if the Ottawa Senators maybe retain 50%, it could also be very good for the Winnipeg Jets. And for me personally, again, it is probably unlikely that both guys will end up going to the Winnipeg Jets. But with the tweets of Darren Dreger saying that Matt Duchene is practically gone, Bruce Graviteh saying that all three are interested by the Winnipeg Jets, and that's McIntyre saying that Dorion is meeting with Kevin Cheveldayoff, I think it is still unlikely, but all these tweets are leading up to a potential Winnipeg trade, and I feel like a potential blockbuster is about to happen. Now, by itself, if Matt Duchene or Mark Stone were traded individually, that would still be huge, huge trades. But if Mark Stone and Matt Duchene were both traded in the same trade to the Winnipeg Jets of any team, that would be absolutely insane and would be one of the biggest trades in NHL trade deadline history. It could really, really shake the market, and the Ottawa Senators obviously are practically giving up on the season. Even without their first-round pick, it's seeming like guys like Mark Stone and Matt Duchene are probably gone, especially before this trade deadline. But going to Winnipeg could be a great chance for both players, and it could be a great chance for the Winnipeg Jets to go on a potential cup run. And while to me, I think Winnipeg has looked a little bit flawed this season, if you were to get a guy like a Duchene or Mark Stone, or potentially both, it could make them into the true contender of the Western Conference, and I truly believe that. Right now, Calgary is kind of shaking a little bit. Nashville is starting to get a little bit better, but still is not quite there yet. San Jose is starting to get better. They're not quite there yet, though. Vegas has fallen down a little bit. When it comes to that Western Conference, it might be completely wide open for the Winnipeg Jets to make a run, make a blockbuster trade here, and go to the Stanley Cup Final, which is a very good possibility, especially with the Winnipeg Jets. And even if they don't go after those guys, they still have a strong chance. But if they were to go after one or both of those guys, it could make them into the true contenders that they might already be. And Winnipeg, for sure, already has the assets to give up to get guys like that. I mean, they have their first-round pick already. They're willing to give that up. But they got quality guys like Sami Niku, Mason Appleton, Christian Vesalainen. They got a lot of solid prospects in the system, and they haven't even given up to any other teams yet, even if they are still a contender. But if Ottawa were to get some young pieces back, Winnipeg is not a bad option at all. And they got a lot of plethora prospects on both the defensive end and on the forward end. So for me personally, I think a blockbuster move, whether it's Duchene and Stone or something else, I feel like Kevin Cheveldayoff is ready to make a gargantuan trade and shake this NHL trade deadline. I think he sees this Western Conference is almost wide open, and the Winnipeg Jets could be the team to come out of it. And if he were on that mindset, getting a guy like Mark Stone, Matt Duchene, or maybe even both, could set the whole standard for the Winnipeg Jets and their franchise, and they could be the class of the Western Conference, especially if they get both those guys. is. And even just a couple of weeks ago, we were thinking that maybe one of them would go to the Winnipeg Jets and maybe one would stay in Ottawa. But now with the recent trade rumors, and of course the trade deadline being only a week away, we're starting to see the can of worms open for the Ottawa Senators, and it seemed like Winnipeg could be really ready to snatch that all up. And again, with Winnipeg's farm system, with their current prospect pool, they have the assets to give up for Ottawa, and Ottawa definitely has a lot of potential targets here. But even then, I feel like a lot of prospects on Winnipeg will be a solid fit for Ottawa and will be just what they need. And as a Dallas Stars fan, I think the Western Conference is personally a little bit scary, but if the Winnipeg Jets were to get Mark Stone, Matt Duchene, or both of them, that would just be bonkers. That would be ludicrous. And when it comes to the Western Conference, they would hands down be the team to beat there. And yes, it is still unlikely for that to happen. It likely will be a pretty long stretch for that to actually happen. Getting both guys could be one of the biggest trades in NHL history, and maybe they add in the Zingle or in there or something. I'm thinking absolutely crazy, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But I feel like right now, the Ottawa Senators are definitely starting to feel the pressure of the trade deadline. Again, as I'm recording this on the 18th. We're pretty much a week away from the trade deadline, and I feel like the Ottawa Senators are one of those teams feeling the heat from the upcoming trade deadline. When it came to the trade rumors of the past, it seemed like both guys, like Mark Stone and Matt Duchene, whether they were traded or signed, that decision would have happened like a month ago. But with the trade deadline only a few days away, Pierre Dorion and the Ottawa Senators team are starting to finally feel the heat and the pressure of it. And Pierre Dorion, honestly, offloading both guys in the same deal could just happen out of necessity, because the more they wait, the more terrible it will end up being. But it seems like with both Matt Duchene and Mark Stone, Pierre Dorion has pretty much made his decision on what is going to happen. So the speculation is probably not going to happen too much longer, and it seems like the decision will probably be made in the next week. But as I'm saying that again, we've heard that same rumor time and time again. Then the decision is coming next week. Oh, it's coming in the next 2 weeks. Whatever it might be, we've heard the same rumors time after time again. But there is no time left for Pierre Dorion to start speculating and to start going after other decisions, because right now the trade deadline is coming up, it's coming fast and furious, and it seems like the Winnipeg Jets are calling right now. But to me right now, I feel like a guy like Matt Duchene is almost 100% going to get traded. I think that decision has almost been made by Pierre Dorion, at least inside of the franchise. And when it comes to Mark Stone, that's a little bit more of an open answer. For me, I feel like it's likely Mark Stone will also get traded. At this point, I feel like Ottawa might be going on that fire sale, and trading a guy like Mark Stone would complete it. When it comes to Ryan Zingle, I haven't heard too much. Of course, the attention has been on Mark Stone and Matt Duchene, obviously, but it seems like a guy like Zingle would be a solid guy for the future in Ottawa. He's a little bit older, I think he's like 27 or something, but he's also a guy that could fetch quite a lot of trade value and could be a nice odd for a lot of contending teams. But of course, both guys are superstars, Mark Stone and Matt Duchene. They're two guys that will fetch a ton of interest around the trade deadline, and we've already seen that in the last month or so. When it comes to the assets that Ottawa might get back, it's going to be a big haul, at least if they play it right, if they're going to trade both guys. I feel like most likely that one guy will get traded and one guy will stay. Right now, a fire sale might be coming from the Ottawa Senators, and if they do trade a guy like Mark Stone and Matt Duchene, they better get it right, because if they don't, the franchise will be in even more trouble than it already is. But again, we're only a few days away from the NHL trade deadline, but even with Mark Stone and Matt Duchene still lingering in the air, it seems like right now both guys will likely get traded, and the Winnipeg Jets are likely the best team to do it. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know what you think about these Matt Duchene and Mark Stone rumors. What do you think about the tweets that I mentioned in this video? And of course, what do you think about both of them possibly going to the Winnipeg Jets? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about Artemi Panarin and 5 possible destinations that he might get traded to. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on these Matt Duchene and Mark Stone rumors, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.